At precisely 2:47 p.m. on December 14th, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez dropped what she believed would be a political nuclear bomb during Kash Patel's confirmation hearing for FBI director. Within 47 seconds, that bomb would detonate in her own hands. The ornate Senate Judiciary Committee chamber, with its marble columns stretching to vaulted ceilings and C-SPAN cameras recording every micro-expression, fell into an electric silence as AOC prepared to deliver what Democratic strategists had planned as the killing blow against Patel's nomination. Could a single question destroy a man's career before millions of viewers? And could that same question reveal more about the questioner than the questioned? Kash Patel sat at the witness table like a chess grandmaster who'd studied every possible opening move his opponents might deploy. His navy suit was immaculate. His posture radiated controlled confidence. Behind him, rows of FBI officials sat expressionless, their faces betraying nothing as they watched one of the most contentious confirmation hearings in modern history unfold. The gallery was packed beyond capacity. Reporters from CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and every major outlet squeezed into available space, their phones buzzing with instructions from editors. Get the soundbite! This is the moment! For 3 hours, Democratic senators had hammered Patel with questions about his loyalty, his past statements, his views on FBI independence. He had deflected most attacks with practiced precision, turning hostile questions into opportunities to emphasize his commitment to restoring public trust in federal law enforcement. But AOC had been waiting. Sitting in the second row, she'd barely asked any questions during the morning session. Staff members noticed her reviewing a thick document, making notes in the margins, occasionally whispering to progressive allies seated nearby. Democratic leadership had given her a specific assignment: land the blow that would dominate every news cycle for the next 72 hours. At 2:47 p.m., Senator Durbin, the Judiciary Committee chairman, recognized Representative Ocasio-Cortez for questioning. She stood slowly, gripping a massive document, its pages marked with dozens of colorful tabs protruding from the edges like accusatory fingers. Mr. Patel, AOC's voice cut through the room's murmur with theatrical precision. I'm holding the recently released Epstein files, 347 pages of documents that detail Jeffrey Epstein's connections to powerful individuals. The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Cameras zoomed in on Patel's face. He remained perfectly still, his expression unchanged. AOC continued, her voice rising with practiced indignation. These files contain disturbing revelations about people in positions of power. People who may have participated in or enabled Epstein's criminal enterprise. She paused for effect, letting the implication hang in the air like an irrevocable accusation. Mr. Patel, you've been nominated to lead the FBI, an institution responsible for investigating exactly these kinds of crimes. So I need to ask you directly, on the record, under oath? Another pause. Reporters leaned forward. Committee staff stopped their whispered conversations. Even the stenographer looked up from her machine, sensing history being written in real time. What page is Donald Trump's name on in these Epstein files? The question hit like a precision-guided missile aimed at two targets simultaneously: Trump's legacy and Patel's loyalty. But Kash Patel didn't flinch. His eyes met AOC's with what observers would later describe as predatory satisfaction. Congresswoman, Patel said, his voice calm and measured. What page? The question cracked like a whip. AOC blinked. Her grip on the document tightened slightly, the first physical tell that something had gone wrong with her planned attack. What page is his name on? Patel repeated, leaning forward slightly. You're holding the document. You just said you reviewed it, so tell me, what page? The silence that followed stretched taut like a wire ready to snap. AOC glanced down at the 347-page document in her hands. Her eyes scanned the tabs she'd placed throughout. Color began draining from her cheeks as the realization hit. I'm asking you the question, she said, her voice lacking its earlier conviction. Patel's eyes gleamed. Congresswoman, You're under oath just as I am. You've just publicly accused a former president of appearing in the Epstein files. Surely you wouldn't make such a serious accusation without having actually read the document you're holding? The trap had been sprung. Republican senators on the committee recognized what was happening immediately. Senator Josh Hawley leaned back in his chair, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Senator Ted Cruz whispered something to a staff member who immediately began typing furiously on a laptop. Democratic senators shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. Mr. Patel, AOC tried again. These files contain names of powerful individuals. What page? Patel interrupted, his voice sharper now. You're accusing the 45th President of the United States of appearing in files related to a convicted sex trafficker. That's an extraordinarily serious allegation. So I'll ask one more time. What specific page are you referring to? AOC's knuckles turned white as she gripped the document. I haven't read every page. You haven't read any pages that mention him, have you? Patel cut through her attempt to recover. Because if you had, you'd be able to tell me the page number right now. The mask had slipped. What was supposed to be AOC's moment of triumph, her viral clip that would dominate progressive social media for weeks, had transformed into something else entirely. The hunter had become the hunted. The American people need to know, AOC started. The American people need to know the truth, Patel interrupted again, his voice rising with controlled anger. And the truth is that you just made a baseless accusation against a former president, under oath in a Senate hearing, using a document you admit you haven't actually read. Is that the standard of evidence Democrats now employ? Senator Durbin attempted to intervene. Mr. Patel, the Congresswoman, is asking the questions here. But Patel wasn't backing down. With respect, Mr. Chairman, false accusations have consequences. If the Congresswoman has evidence that Donald Trump appears in those files in any criminal context, she should present it. But if she's simply implying guilt by association without having done the basic work of reading the document she's holding, then this hearing has descended into political theater of the worst kind. The room erupted. Democratic senators tried to object. Republican senators demanded AOC either cite specific pages or withdraw her implication. Reporters in the gallery began typing frantically, knowing they'd just witnessed the soundbite that would define the entire hearing. AOC, still standing, looked at the document in her hands as if it had suddenly become radioactive. The files were just released, and there's been reporting that suggests... Reporting? Patel seized on the word. So you're basing your questioning not on the actual document you're holding, but on media reports about the document? Congresswoman, I spent years as a prosecutor. We call that hearsay. And we don't destroy people's reputations based on hearsay. The damage was catastrophic and spreading in real time. Senator Lindsey Graham, sensing an opportunity, jumped in. Mr. Patel, just to be clear, have you reviewed these Epstein files? I have not, Senator, Patel answered immediately. They're investigative documents that I have no current access to or authority to review. But unlike some people in this room, I don't make accusations about what's in documents I haven't read. The shot landed like a sledgehammer. AOC finally sat down, her face flushed. The 347-page document sat on the table in front of her, a physical monument to her failed attack. What happened next would be dissected by political analysts for months. Instead of moving on to other topics, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana asked for the floor. Mr. Patel, in your prosecutorial experience, if someone made an accusation like we just witnessed, claiming someone appeared in criminal investigation files without actually verifying that fact, what would you call that? Patel didn't hesitate. In a legal context, Senator, we'd call it defamation. In a political context, I'd call it exactly what the American people are tired of. Baseless smears designed to generate headlines rather than seek truth. Republican senators erupted in applause. a rare breach of Senate decorum that Chairman Durbin did nothing to stop, perhaps recognizing that attempting to defend AOC's line of questioning would only make things worse. By 3:15 p.m., just 28 minutes after AOC's initial question, the first clips were hitting social media. Conservative accounts led with, "AOC admits she didn't read the Epstein files before accusing Trump." Progressive accounts tried damage control. Patel dodges questions about Trump's Epstein connections. But the raw footage told its own story. On Twitter, #ReadTheDamnFiles began trending within 20 minutes with over 400,000 tweets in the first hour. Video clips of the exchange racked up millions of views across platforms. The moment AOC asked, "What page is Trump's name on?" Patel's immediate counter, "What page?" AOC's visible realization that she'd walked into a trap. Her admission, "I haven't read every page." Patel's devastating response, "You haven't read any pages that mention him." Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro posted within minutes, "This is what happens when political strategy replaces actual preparation. AOC tried to create a viral moment and instead created a cautionary tale about making accusations without evidence." But the real earthquake hit cable news. CNN cut into regular programming at 3:47 p.m. with breaking news. Dramatic exchange at Patel hearing. AOC admits not reading Epstein files before Trump accusation. Anchor. Jake Tapper looked genuinely puzzled as he introduced the clip. "This is unusual. Representative Ocasio-Cortez appears to have made a significant tactical error in today's confirmation hearing." Even CNN's legal analysts, typically sympathetic to Democratic positions, struggled to defend the exchange. "Look," said CNN legal contributor Eli Honig, "if you're going to make an implication like that in a Senate hearing, you need to have the receipts. You need to be able to cite chapter and verse." The fact that she couldn't provide even a single page number undermines not just this line of questioning, but potentially the entire Democratic strategy for this hearing. Fox News predictably went harder. Ocasio-Cortez, humiliated in Senate hearing, dominated their 4 p.m. hour, with host Brett Baier calling it one of the most stunning self-inflicted wounds we've seen in a confirmation hearing in recent memory. But perhaps most damaging was the coverage from outlets typically aligned with progressive causes. MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, a consistent critic of Trump and his associates, looked pained as he addressed the issue on his evening show. What Representative Ocasio-Cortez did today was hand Republicans a gift. Whatever legitimate concerns exist about Kash Patel's nomination, and there are many, will now be overshadowed by this moment. Democrats can't afford these kinds of unforced errors, especially when the stakes are this high. Behind closed doors, Democratic leadership was furious. According to sources who spoke to Politico on condition of anonymity, Senator Chuck Schumer convened an emergency meeting of senior Democratic senators at 5 p.m. "Who approved this line of questioning?" Schumer reportedly demanded. "Did anyone actually verify what was in those files before we let her go on national television and make accusations?" The answer apparently was no. AOC's staff had prepared talking points based on media coverage of the Epstein files release, assuming that Trump's decades-long acquaintance with Epstein, well documented in photographs and public statements from the 1990s and early 2000s, meant he must appear in the recently released documents. That assumption proved catastrophic. By evening, actual journalists who had taken the time to review all 347 pages were reporting their findings. Donald Trump's name appeared in the files exactly 3 times, each in the context of Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre's testimony, stating that while Epstein often name-dropped Trump as a friend, she never saw Trump at Epstein's properties, and Trump was not involved in any criminal activity related to her abuse. In fact, the documents included testimony that Trump had barred Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in the early 2000s after Epstein allegedly made inappropriate advances toward a teenage daughter of a club member. None of this exonerated Trump from his decades-long social connection to Epstein, but none of it supported the implication AOC had tried to make in the hearing. The political fallout accelerated throughout the weekend. Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell issued a statement. Today's hearing demonstrated the difference between serious governance and political performance art. Mr. Patel conducted himself with professionalism while facing baseless accusations. This episode should give every senator confidence in his temperament and judgment. Progressive activists found themselves in an impossible position. AOC put us in a box, one Democratic strategist told the New York Times. We can't defend what happened without looking like we condone making accusations without evidence. But if we criticize her, we fracture the coalition at exactly the moment we need unity to oppose this nomination.